It's the Seth Stroud Show.
Hello.
Hey, I hear you, brother.
Fantastic. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I appreciate you taking some time to come onto the channel.
You haven't shared anything with me, so, I don't know what to expect. We'll see.
Awesome. Okay, so I'll just jump in. Hey, guys, welcome back to the channel. I've got with me today a very unique project. It's a little bit different. You're used to some of the other Bitcoin forks and some of the other Equihash algorithm coins that I've had on the show, because one of the topics that's been a hot debate has been ASIC resistance. And Equihash, of course, has been hit hardest. But today on the show, I've got with me Eric, who is the chief technologist and I believe the principal co-founder of Akroma.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, absolutely. One of the co-founders along with Ian.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm bummed we couldn't do a panel interview. It would have been cool to have both you and Ian on the show. Maybe we can do it another time. But I'm glad you're with us tonight. And I want to jump in and ask, there are a lot of people who aren't super familiar with Akroma. And so we're going to pretend for a brief moment that all of my viewers, all of my community is kind of like a VC panel, right? When a startup is going to pitch, one of the first things that a VC panel is going to ask them is, what's the big deal? What's the big problem? What problem are you trying to solve?
That is a really deep question for Akroma, because, as you mentioned, Akroma's taken things from a little bit different angle. We founded Akroma as I own a boutique consulting company. As last year's prices were rocketing, everybody wanted to get into crypto, and a number of startup founders coming to me and saying, we want to do this project. And ultimately, every conversation that I had with a founder ended up with, well, where do we build it? Ethereum's overrun with crypto kitties. How do we scale this? What do we do? And some of those projects had some data requirements, some things that we weren't exactly in Ethereum, problems that you see projects like Golem building up their own network and things like that to solve. And we decided, I've got this basket of startups kind of coming to me to build their project. We decided, well, let's build our own network. There's a couple minor things that we want different. There's some big things that we can do different. We'll build it up. We'll use it for that. And we opened the doors we set up a GitHub repo. We had a website and a Discord that we were using for our developers, and the flood doors just opened and people just started streaming in. What is this? Are you guys doing? What is this? What are oracles? What are you building? So I know it's a long answer to your question, but
sure. Well, let's do this then. I mean, let me rephrase the question, because I think the typical VC speak, like, it almost doesn't work in crypto. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
Yeah. The Silicon Valley pitch, like sweet and condensed pitches, don't always work. So let me ask it this way.
Yeah. What
was the biggest pain point that you saw with crypto that you were like, well, gosh darn it, why hasn't anybody solved this? Like, why hasn't anybody fixed it? You mentioned CryptoKitties. You mentioned congestion on Ethereum, and you mentioned, like, when you get outside of like messaging and you get outside of like maybe ownership certificates and ownership tokens, then it's almost like at that point crypto wasn't really made for it. Was that specifically the problem that you were like, or specifically the pain point that you were like, it needs to do more than just messaging and ownership, or was it a little bit different than that?
Yeah, our approach was we wanted to create what we call a stable governance model. We wanted to build in as a group of developers. So the Akroma team, unlike a lot of other teams, like, we all know each other. We've all worked together on many projects. And so we had this theory that we could, through the minor protocol change of creating a development fund, that we could create a sustainable model, that my development network and my friend's development network was large enough that we could get enough people working for a token that had no value at that time to build up an entire platform. And we've done pretty well with it. There's a lot of the listing sites, coin calculators, exchanges that we've worked with. We only exclusively pay in Akroma. So when somebody hops into our channel and says, hey, we'd like to list Akroma on this platform, it's 1 BTC. We're like, great, will you accept that amount in Akroma? Because we only pay in Akroma. So we wanted to prove that we could build up a platform, and a lot of it has to do with community, but we could build up that platform through a governance model that doesn't start with a multi-million-dollar ICO, and that doesn't start with a 60 million coin pre-mine like we saw on Ethereum.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I mean, I would say shots fired, but the reality is there's so many projects that start with that huge pre-mine. I had a relatively smaller, it's a smaller coin, smaller market cap project that was on the show the other night, and they're fully anonymous, and they had this massive pre-mine. I think it was like 90. I mean, it was just a ton. It was just a ton of coins.
And the reality is, it's really hard. We've been really lucky with Akroma, as I've been able to work on Akroma full time for the last 6 months.
Bravo! That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good, and I've actually been able to, the development fund, pays a little bit here and there, but the rest of the team doesn't work full time, and that puts a lot of strain on them. They have to go their 9 to 5, and they're like, oh, I just want to work on Akroma. They're spending their nights and their weekends, and they don't see their families anymore, and their kids are crying. And okay, maybe it's not that bad.
Yeah, right.
But they really
Akroma widows, Akroma widows and orphans everywhere.
So it's been hard, but there's some places where the community stepped in. We've had a lot of people helping test software, test new releases, and we also made some decisions that made it harder. We decided not to fork the standard Mist Ethereum wallet. We want to build our own bespoke wallet. There's a lot of things that we were unhappy with about Mist. So we made some conscious decisions that made it harder for ourselves. But overall, one of our big, kind of going back to answer your question, the big things that we're trying to solve is a stable governance model. We want to have a cohesive ecosystem. So everything from top to bottom is branded Akroma. We want to reward people for running full nodes, and we want those master nodes to do a little bit more than just validating transactions. What we want them to do is everything from running as boot nodes, which are the nodes that bootstrap the network, to supporting test nets. Right now, things like the Ethereum Foundation and developer funds are running all of that. And we think that, there's no reason that we can't build a crypto economic model where the community is running all of the infrastructure, even the pieces that are technically centralized, like the boot nodes and the test net and faucets and kind of all those things.
Got it. Okay. So, and that's awesome. Okay. So it sounds like then primarily then you were focused on governance, and
Yep.
then what degree of functionality or what degree of utility did you say, like, all right, this has to be added in order to achieve that vision?
Well, on the governance, it's pretty standard. It's very simple protocol change. I mean, the big difference is on the technical side is a focus on oracles. As developers in these projects that we were working with, they had data requirements, and there are other projects that are Oracle-based projects, and Augur, Genosis, they've raised tens of millions of dollars. There are smaller projects like Zap. They've raised some funds, and everybody's kind of going about it in a little different way. And the way that we think that oracles could be achieved in a way that bring developers to the platform quickly without having to build up an entire crypto economy like Genosis and Augur is for somebody like Akroma to, with that minor protocol change, basically be able to pay all the gas fees for keeping an oracle up to date. So an oracle is an on-chain smart contract that holds information that other smart contracts can use. So somebody has to keep that information up to date.
Got it. Okay. Awesome. So very, very cool. That tells me a little bit about the Akroma project, and anybody who's just tuning in who is maybe not already familiar with Akroma helps get them up to speed a little bit. And so I appreciate you laying some foundation for us there. A lot of the viewers of my channel, a lot of my core audience, it's going to be dominated by miners primarily. So So we're going to come back around to that. That's the question du jour, right? Is ASIC resistance, and especially with hash coins have just been like slammed lately, right? It's like if they haven't already been 51% attacked, just wait a couple of days. So it's been hectic for a lot of those teams, regardless of their market cap. It just makes them a bigger target, you know? So yeah, the top question that I have for most new teams or most projects that I'm interviewing is that the big problem, right? What did you want to solve? It sounds like governance was key for you. Just making sure that you had something that in a word fostered sustainability.
Yep.
And So the big question is afterwards, why create a new fork or a new token? Why focus on a new platform instead of becoming a more vocal faction of another project that you thought maybe had the legs and the manpower to achieve that vision?
That's a really good question. So I submitted some code to some projects. I spent a lot of time reviewing projects. There's so many things that are not yet done in crypto. It's just such it reminds me kind of old compared to most people. And it reminds me of the late 90s when, the internet was first coming and everything was possible. There were so many exciting times.
Yeah, buddy, I remember. AOL, America on Hold.
Yeah. And that excitement kind of died down as, everybody started building websites and things kind of got standard. Then, the mobile revolution happened. Everybody's building apps and there's just this level of excitement and possibilities. You can build a business, you can do anything. And then that kind of died down. We had, roughly 10 years of just really no major new innovations. And, as the crypto markets kind of came into play, for developers, I know obviously smart contracts and unstoppable applications are very controversial, but it opens up a whole world of possibilities for us to build things that just haven't been possible before. Immutable data is just a new concept. And so it gives us a place to explore a lot of potential things that could happen. So rather than jumping on another project, we wanted that freedom to explore, to build something that, if we wanted to go in just a slightly different direction, we could just easily go in that direction.
Got it. Okay. So basically, you saw blue ocean, to use the Silicon Valley phrases.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. That makes sense to me. Like the traditional tech startup. I say it like it's been around like for 50 years or whatever. But sort of the traditional startup concepts, they still kind of do apply in some cases to crypto very well.
Absolutely.
Not always, but yeah. So awesome. That makes a lot of sense to me. So let's talk about as far as just methodology and as far as order of operations. You guys, so you made the decision, right? We've got to make this new thing. It's got to be Akroma. It can't be Ethereum, for example. We can't go vote and strong arm Ethereum into making this happen.
Nobody's going to do that.
Right. So it's Akroma. What was the first big thing you guys identified as like, okay, we got to do this. We got to build this?
It's the thing that we're building now. And actually, when I say now, it's actually next quarter. So it's our Oracle system. We want to make sure that we have an attractive platform for developers. And one of the ways that you can do that is give them more tools in their toolbox. And so what we're going to do is through the Akroma Foundation, the ability to stand up oracles and keep all kinds of data on chain that their smart contracts then can use in their computation. So, if you and I wanted to have a vet who is the president, at the end of this year, getting the answer to that information, you'd have to go off chain. And when you go off chain, you introduce things like timing attacks, or you have to do something crazy like Genosis and Augur are doing and build up an entire economy. There are some other projects that are working on different solutions, but it's a really complex problem. So for us, we're going to just load that data on chain. Think of it as being able to just query Wikipedia in your smart contract. And now we can write that contract very simply, because a lot of times people talk about smart contracts and we can put all of this logic in there. Well, you can't really put the logic in there until the data is on chain. And so we're jump starting it in not the most elegant way. We're not building an entire decentralized crypto economy. We haven't raised $40 million in investment. We're just putting the data on chain. We've modified the protocol. We're working on background services to keep all of our smart contracts, all of our oracles up to date. We're going to do some cool things with allowing the masternode holders in the community to vote for what type of data we put on the chain. We're going to use a token curated registry so they can basically vote with their tokens. But oracles, because it makes it, one, a more attractive place for developers, and two, it makes it the place that we want to build. Because again, we started Akroma because we had a need. And
sure. You want to scratch your own itch.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to do that until we actually have oracles up and running. So next quarter, our big focus is kind of like that Steve Ballmer, developers. That's going to be us next quarter. Smart contract support in Explorer. We built our own Explorer. That was probably the first thing that we did. I guess the second. All right, let me take a step back. So you asked what was the first thing we did. So the first thing we did was our own Explorer. There were a lot of Explorers out there. Some of them, you see them on, all different chains, pretty standard stuff. We built our own block Explorer. The second thing is we started work this quarter on the wallet. And then the third thing is going to be Oracle. So that's 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, got it. So it sounds like then, Jerry, a pretty pragmatic approach. As far as the first couple of things, you had to make sure there was some, a little bit of transparency, right?
Yeah, so we get dinged, I think, a little bit for our pragmatic approach, but we're all seasoned developers, 15, 20 years of experience. So we're like, we know this is going to work. We're just going to go this route. Sorry, guy. You can keep asking when moon, but it's when we're done, right? We're building this for the long haul. It's not going to be tomorrow.
Right. I think a better question would be when vote.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. You want to vote. You want to use your Akroma. You want to. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Okay, so I think I dig it. I think I get where you're coming from, and it makes a lot of sense as far as the methodology, like how you're laying out the sort of operation, laying a foundation that is sustainable. Love that that's the theme for Akroma so far, by the way. So anybody who is just tuning in or who hasn't really been exposed to Akroma just yet, this is my first exposure to the Akroma project as well. So I love that you took the time out to do this. But just let me say that right now, I've already got a good feeling based on the conversation we're having so far. Like maybe it's the pragmatist. Like I'm not a programmer, but I play on TV.
Yeah.
So and I mod code all the time, right? So it's like there's nothing worse than having to jump into somebody else's rat's nest that's totally uncommented and completely shoddily thrown together. So to know that you've got, that you're focusing on a methodical approach that's going to assist developers in feeling comfortable for a long time is so key.
Yeah, and there's a lot of little things that we do that it's just not worth. Maybe it is worth advertising. To be clear, we literally suck at marketing. We're too busy hands-on keyboard writing code. So for example, the main library that's used for communicating with smart contracts is called Web3. And Web3 is written in JavaScript. And JavaScript is a dynamic language, which means you've got all kinds of potential for new and unique errors and bugs in it. And we were like, why is this done in JavaScript? It should be at least be done in something like TypeScript, which gives you compile time checking. And it's much easier to write tests and reason about. And that's one of the reasons why we also didn't fork Mist, is because it wasn't written in TypeScript. And there's 700 open bugs. And we're like, it's going to take us so much longer to write our own wallet. Obviously, the Ethereum team has been doing it for a super long time. We're just going to, it's going to be slow. It's going to be steady. That's what you're going to get out of Akroma, but it's always going to be forward progress.
Nice. Okay, so I love the approach that you're taking, because there's so many projects that are just like, all right, fork. Now let's go ahead and let's add some stuff and hope that other things don't break. Maybe we can rebase. And it's like, oh man.
So I've been working the last 4 days running regression tests, because we did rebase to the latest version, Ethereum's head on their master branch. And I've been just literally running regression tests for the last 4 days. And frankly, it's on the same section of code, but it's we're professional developers. We work for financial institutions. This is the level of thoroughness that we have to do. We don't want, the off by one bug to just halt the chain. We don't want an icon or an EOS bug. No, even though we're a small network and nobody's looking at us, we're not gonna, we can see, you're a $100 million project or $800 million project. We're not going to do that. We're a little bit better than that. And so hopefully in the long run, it'll help us get to the same level of market cap.
Awesome. Well, let me ask, as far as in terms of problem solving, that engineering perspective, right?
Yeah.
What are the new problems that the team wants to solve right now? And we might have to get more granular, right? Because you mentioned it from a high level, kind of what you want to work on.
Yeah. Do you mean new problems with the crypto industry, or things that we've kind of come across as we've been building out our ecosystem? Because those are different.
Yeah, right. I guess maybe things that the Akroma project is uniquely positioned right now to actually address. Let's just keep that pragmatic approach, like where you are right now. What realistically can you guys wrap your arms around and change next?
Next quarter is all going to be oracles. That is really what we're going to focus on. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes in the crypto ecosystem the last couple months. Things like ASICs and scaling debates and all kinds of different things. We're going to just be focused on oracles. We've been paying a lot of attention to Casper and what Ethereum is doing with that, and Akroma in itself existing is also a hedge against Casper, and just kind of, we'll see how this plays out, moving to pure proof of stake. There's a lot of decisions that the Ethereum team needs to make, and so we're just kind of taking a wait and see attitude. But we listen to the developer meetups every week, and so there's a lot there.
Sure. That makes perfect sense. With a project like yours, if Ethereum sneezes, you guys catch cold in a way.
Yeah. But the big thing is oracles. We're really going to just stay focused on that, because at the end of the day, we want to be an attractive platform for developers, and we want the platform that we can develop on as developers.
What's the split today in terms of consensus for Akroma?
7. You mean like the reward structure?
Yeah, thank you. Pardon me.
Yeah. So it's 7, 2, and 1 between the miners, the master nodes, and the foundation. So we just last week, and that's what our next release is. It has some features to apply what people are calling a monetary policy, or a coin control policy, or whatever you want to say. But so that's being built into our protocol now. So we're taking the approach that we slowly want to make adjustments rather than have things like halvings, which make it easy for pump and dump groups to organize around. So we're hopefully we're taking the same approach that we have with everything else, is that we believe that this is going to work in the long run. If it does, great. If it doesn't, we're at least trying.
Sure. Well, plus in 2018, man, what better story to tell future employers than I successfully launched a new blockchain. It was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So the reward structures that we're doing is slowly going to adjust. And so we're looking at the timeline horizon. How long is it going to take for us to complete our major initiatives as we have them today? And then how can we slowly adjust those block rewards over time? So if you take a look at our Medium article, you'll see it's one of the top, one of the last 3 that we posted. But there's a spreadsheet that's in there, and hopefully what it lays out is a really, I don't know, maybe conservative is the right word, approach to the adjustments in the reward structure, so that hopefully we get to a place where we've got enough hash power, where the miners are happy, we've got enough nodes on the system, and the master nodes that they're running, so that they are providing all of the infrastructure of the platform. And then we as developers, have a sustainable team where not just myself can be working on it full time.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds. Those all sound like super important. You've got a community. So with that community and with the amount of heavy lifting that has to happen, mouths to feed. That makes sense.
Yeah, and we know it's going to take years. So the block structure is going to slowly adjust. But we're going from 10, we're going to 9, 8.6, 8.1, right? So it's a very slow adjustment over time rather than halvings. So we'll see. I think this is an example of the type of things like, why don't we just hook up with another project? Well, we wanted to run the math, and we wanted to come up with our own block reward structure. Obviously, we didn't know we wanted to come up with our own block reward structure before we started Akroma, but these are the types of things that we as a collective can do, and then we can implement. And maybe some other project that we're working with wanted to have greater jumps so that they could see these pump and dumps and that type of stuff. And it's like maybe there's a part of an ethos that we have that everything we do is kind of on the other side of the fence.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. So it sounds like then you have some idea for how the next 3 months are going to go. And that's kind of like where you guys are at.
Developers.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get that Bomber quote edited in.
Yeah.
But so let's talk a little about team, because clearly it's one of the pride points of the project is that you are a non-anonymous project. And I know for some projects, I mean, they revel in their anonymity. Bitcoin is still laughing at everybody, right?
Yeah.
Satoshi, right?
Yeah.
$5.8 million US later, with what is it, 980,000 BTC in that wallet?
Yeah.
Satoshi's laughing at everyone. But in 2018, this is kind of a big deal, right? To be able to have a face-to-face interview like this, it matters. So let's talk a little bit about team, maybe how they came on board very briefly, and kind of what gets an Akroma developer up out of bed every morning saying like, all right, it's going to be a long day, but Akroma today, I got this. I'm going to do this.
Yeah. So obviously, that's one of our pride points as our team. We've all worked together in some fashion.
And I'm sorry, if you want me to, I pull up the team right here and I can do a screen share so we can get visuals on the team.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I can go through them one by one if you want. I mean, these are all my friends, so I'm happy to talk about them.
Nice. Okay, so here's the core team.
Yes, that is. You're correct.
Yeah, let's talk about the core team then. Let me pop this up a little bigger for the. I was doing screen cap. Things always look smaller on. Everyone's watching on an iPhone anyway.
So, as I said, the thing that is a little bit different is we've all worked together. And when I say we, I'm speaking specifically from my angle. So not everybody's worked together, but I've worked with everybody. So like I'm, the Rosetta Stone of developers, or however that actually plays out. So I worked with Ian, Andrew, Gunn, Victor, Steve, Megan, and in all different fashions. So for example, Megan and I worked at a startup together. I was a CTO of a startup. She was doing all the social. Her and I spent a lot of time together on the social side of things. And when we started Akroma, there's a lot of people that kind of come out and say, hey, we'd like to do your social. And I was like, Megan, you do social. She works for an agency. She has a number of big brands that she works for, and she's wonderful enough to also do Akroma on the side. So
that's awesome. It sounds like she knows how to manage multiple accounts anyway. So in terms of crypto, that's a valuable skill to have.
Yeah, and I don't think, I know her big accounts, and maybe they're on her LinkedIn or whatever, and that's also something that's a little bit different. You can look up, everybody as a team member on their LinkedIn, but she actually manages some really big national accounts, and I'm like, man, you do that and Akroma? That's cool. I mean, thanks for giving us that level of support.
Nice. So you worked with Megan at a previous startup where you were CTO, and so with Steve, Victor, Gunn, Andrew, Ian, what are some of the core competencies between the rest of the team? Because I see some designers, developers, Android development, and then designer and developer with Steve.
Yeah, Steve's like a jack of all trades. Steve's a really interesting guy. I've worked with him actually at two, maybe three different places. He has a fine arts degree. He's a developer by trade, but he's incredibly artistic. He's the guy that I call when I need something done, like right then. And he will work like the next 40 hours to get it done, like straight, no sleep, just all coffee.
Jeez.
And then I don't talk to Steve for like 2 weeks or like 3 weeks. But whenever I need something like that I can rely on, he's always there for me. So so that's Steve's background, and I guess that's a little bit of our relationship.
Nice. So, hey, viewers, it sounds like Steve needs coffee. Maybe you can put an address down in the comments or something. Buy him some coffee. Sweet.
So Ian, what I would say is a co-founder of Akroma with me. He and I started working on it at the very earliest. I worked at again, we worked together. He was developing a whole bunch of cloud architecture stuff at the time. And he's got a really deep interest in smart contracts. There's a lot that he wants to build in that space. So, his level of interest in this, like, he was the person where I didn't have to be, explain what Akroma was. It was just like, hey, I stood up a network for us to build on, and he was, all right, great. What can we build now? And we just kind of started running with it. So, he was like the earliest cheerleader, like day one.
Nice.
Let's go.
Nice. Well, it helps when your cheerleaders are capable of jumping into the game and scoring some points for you too.
Absolutely. Andrew, I met through somebody we worked with. We worked at the same place, but at different times. So I guess technically Andrew and I never worked together, but we both worked at the same place. I don't know. It's a tough call. You make the call. But either way, he's a designer by trade, fine arts degree. He spends all day working on designs for, again, national brands, some of the biggest, Fortune 500 brands. And, he was introduced to crypto at the end of last year, like a lot of people were, and he kind of just took it to, like, fish to water. And he really sees, he's coming at it from, and that's kind of one of the things that's a little bit different about Akroma is we're all coming at it from, traditional 9 to 5, building consumer-facing applications or enterprise applications, applications that are used by humans, not just people that are in crypto, right? So, there's a lot of usability, a lot of UI, UX stuff that he really wants to bring to the space. And again, that gets into one of the, why stand up Akroma. I mean, Andrew wanted that blue ocean to say, well, there's a lot of things that we could do better. I want to play with them. I want to, explore this design space. So that's one of the reasons.
Nice. And it sounds like your mobile developers, Gun and Victor, they're on board to help essentially translate all the work that's being done by the rest of the team into usable mobile products, or how are...
So no, just the mobile apps, right? So we have a mobile wallet that we're working on for both iOS and Android. Again, this gets into, where the decision to partner up with somebody else, clone a repo, build your own. And so there's a lot of things that we wanted to do on both the iOS and the Android side. And the iOS side is just a pain in the butt. So I give Victor a lot of props, but they are making the mobile wallets. So you can go to the Google Play Store. You can download the Akroma wallet. It's the Akroma wallet. So, and sure, you can do things like you add Akroma as a network through my Ether wallet, and you can interact with it that way. But I'd say probably one of the best ways to store your Akroma is with the Android wallet.
Awesome. Well, I'm probably going to be doing that before we're even done with the interview. I'm like super curious now because I've got my Samsung right here. So I'll take a look and see if I can speak to that before we're even done with the interview. But I'm going to go ahead and cut the screen share there. Let's chat a little more about project direction here. As far as so I'm sorry, not project direction. Let's jump back. Let's pull back a little more into general crypto right now and proof of work. This is a topic of hot debate, right? And certainly if you're on Dagger, as your project is right now, a little less so. It's the Equihash teams that have just been beat over the head, right?
Yeah.
But with Dagger, there's still people talking about like, okay, there's some ASICs that might pose a threat. Realistically, not really. But we'll just say for argument's sake, there is. As far as ASIC resistance, air quotes, what do you think? Does it matter?
All right. So again, hopefully this thread weaves through the interview. Our goal is to build an incredibly strong community. And for us to do that, the more miners that we have spread across different geographies, different pools, the better. So we want to make sure that we can be as inclusive as we can be in bringing a wide a swath of individuals mining on Akroma. So as you mentioned, the ASICs that have been released are not super powerful. So right now, we're not doing anything except for taking a wait and see attitude. The counterbalance to that is the more hash power that we have on Akroma, the safer we are from things like the 51% attack, right? So it's a hard question for us to answer now, and I'm really glad that we don't have to answer it now.
Got it. Well, let me throw a quick curveball then.
Sure.
Because here's what I see. I see several projects that are in a similar situation where it doesn't seem like there's an immediate need today, but being a fledgling blockchain, right, that does use proof of work, but with an algorithm that's already densely populated with other blockchain projects, you actually stand a huge risk of 51% attack currently on Dagger, precisely because you have Ethereum with 18 million GPUs mining it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and nice hash exists, right? I mean, technically you could, stand up a pool, point nice hash at it. That pool, obviously can be malicious. So yeah, there is the technical concern. We've thought about doing things like checkpoint blocks and pinning against Bitcoin or Ethereum, certain block hashes at different times. But really what that's going to do is that's just a canary in the coal mine type thing. And it gives us a chance to kind of revert back, but it doesn't really solve the problem. So it's a really hard problem to have a very clear answer for. I mean, at the end of the day, what I'd really like to see is Akroma to continue to grow so that concern slowly goes down. Because there's no silver bullet now. Even switching to different algorithms, the question is, okay, if I switch to a different algorithm that's not nice hash compatible, I've got to make sure that there is mining software so people could even mine on, whatever algorithm we switch to, right?
Right.
And then
right. Somebody call Claymore, otherwise you're
exactly
you're
right?
sunk.
Yeah. So, we've been really lucky with the number of pools that we've had. The pools have been absolutely wonderful. There is obviously concern about 51% attacks. At the end of the day, our goal is to make Akroma more and more popular. And as we do that, hopefully that risk goes down.
Awesome. Okay. So it sounds like then ASIC resistance in general right now, not as big a concern just because ASICs in terms of their ability to really encroach on Dagger's territory. Not so bad. Awesome. So let's talk about proof of work in general, sort of the future of proof of work. In my mind and in the minds of several of my viewers, a lot of us are miners. We're interested in contributing to the network of several projects that we favor. We're, of course, receiving rewards for participating is cool. But then also it's kind of like I've got a mining rig right here that I literally had to turn off for these interviews. I always turn off for these interviews because the physical byproduct and even just the actual work that it does, the technological work that it performs is kind of inherently meaningless. Like it generates heat and noise. And then in terms of the actual code that it helps to validate, it's sort of like, nice. That is there's no longer usable work product now that just made heat and noise.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see, I turned off my miner as well. I guess maybe you can see it a little bit over there. But
nice.
I like it in the wintertime. It's not so nice in the summertime though.
Right.
Keeps my basement nice and warm in the winter, but so okay, I agree, and I'm also a miner. So what's the question?
Proof of work, man. Where is it headed? Where does the arms race end, right? Like, because we've got so many other coins and so many other networks where the difficulty is going up so much that the small time miner. I've only got a couple of airframes back there. Then I've got boxes full of GPUs down here. Another airframe just off camera. Riserless system over there. ASICs that some well wishers are sending over for me to review and stuff. Just it mounts, right? It adds up. But even if I had all this stuff running with dozens of GPUs going, I couldn't replace a job.
No,
I could have last year.
Yeah, last year was good.
I can't now. So like it kind of feels like it's an arms race, and the mid-scale miners, they're doing okay if they can be owner operators. The large-scale miners, well, it's dominated by the nouveau riche of crypto. And so there's kind of this issue with, okay, is there some other way to make it at least make the proof of work, make it somehow useful? And the term that we're hearing a lot in these interviews, and the term that I'm kind of bouncing off of new interviewees, is proof of useful work.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like a lot of stuff that's happening on kind of the what is it? Not the SGI stuff. Is it the SGI? Oh my gosh, why is my brain?
Render token, Otoy?
No, I'm thinking of the. Anyway, it's the, it doesn't matter. But I'm not a super big miner, so I'm not going to be able to give you an answer from the miner's perspective. But from a developer's perspective, I think that what we're going to see is layer 2 solutions come into play. We're going to see those layer 1 solutions be used as not cold storage, but point in time checkpoints. Validation, like it is going to be the non-real time. Gosh, man, I just completely stopped working.
Well, hey, it's late, and I appreciate you being game for this interview, because I know you had a long day, and I appreciate making time for this.
So I see it as that the layer 2 solutions, you're going to see a lot of things like sharding, you're going to see a lot of scaling, but you're still going to need proof of work to ensure the security of the network. So even if, you're going to have, basically the settlement layer is what I'm trying to say, is you're going to have a lot of things starting to happen on shards, on layer 2 solutions, state channels, lightning, all kind of those buzzwords that we're hearing. But you're still going to need a settlement layer that's going to kind of lock those transactions in Amber, because otherwise there's just no way to have immutable data. And immutable data is it's that new invention that we can now do things like create the Internet of Money. We can actually create new applications on top of. So I think that that proof of work is going to stay. Like proof of useful work would be amazing. I'd love to see that. I was actually watching a couple interviews and read a couple papers out of MIT about proof of useful work. And that would be interesting. I would love to do, cure cancer with Bitcoin. That would just shut a lot of people up. Maybe not with Bitcoin, but with, whatever. Like I would love that. That's just not something that I'm well versed to speak about.
Sure. Well, hey, I appreciate that. I appreciate, conceding some, maybe not ignorance, but conceding that it might not be the right time to talk about it yet.
Software. I'm not on the hardware side of things.
Awesome. Yeah, I think just because primarily my audience there's a lot of miners in the audience. So this has been a topic that's really important to a lot of us. And for me, interviewing so many different projects that, that rely on proof of work. And for my part, my background is a little bit more in media production, content creation. I studied radio, television, film, but then, geeked out having several brothers who do high-end visual effects and animation for Hollywood. And so it's a very highly technical pursuit at that level. Yep. And so we talk about it all the time. These GPUs, they were custom built for ray tracing, for pushing pixels, for pushing high poly count meshes, and high resolution textures on top of them. So there's like they're custom built to do some things that we are now telling them, don't worry about that. Go ahead and just do cryptography instead.
Yeah, just try to just hash this again, and just hash this, and just hash this. Yeah, just keep hashing things. Just try to come up with a hash that starts with 33 zeros. Just keep doing that. Just shut up and hash stuff. Yeah.
Right. So it begs the question then, like, when can we turn some of this native awesomeness into some kind of useful work? Maybe even if it's just in some kind of hybrid proof of work algorithm right down the line, where there's of a necessity, there's still a need for cryptographic hashes, right, involved in there, maybe as checkpoints within whatever that algorithm is, but then some other synthetic data that allows for cool stuff to be made by the GPUs.
As a developer, the concept of immutable data that cannot be changed that's what they're doing. Like, yes, they're trying to solve a block, but they are creating a system of data that cannot be changed, and that has never existed. And that just invention alone is worth what they're doing. So I'm going to take a stance that what they're doing is incredibly valuable, and that I'm okay if they never change to. I would love to, like, again, I'd love to cure cancer and shut people up about like the energy consumption. I totally would, but immutable data is so valuable. You're going to see new financial instruments built on top of it. You're going to see more securities be tokenized. You're going, like, once you have immutable data, the things that you can do and the value that comes with immutable data is so precious that burning coal to power the electricity, to spin the wheel and the water to get it to your house or whatever, to hash those numbers is so precious. I'm gonna have to stand on that.
Nice. Well, hey, I totally appreciate that. And I think it's important to have that perspective. I had several other opinions and perspectives shared in the series, right? So totally. And here's the thing. I also totally agree with you that we're doing something that's never been done before. Right. Well, that's just it. Like, but on some level, like, yeah, the whole oh, Bitcoin's gonna eventually use up all of this electricity, and if we had enough hash power to actually start doing things the way that we needed to, it would generate so much heat that we would burn up all the oceans or whatever. Like, no, stop. No, it's not true. It's like the
it causes global warming, right?
Right, and it limits the amount of usable lithium for us to mine.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, so we can't create our cool EVs and photovoltaics too. We're mining all the ore necessary to create photovoltaics. So
that's not a concern. No.
Yeah, right. Like, there's so many weird arguments that come out against mining, and I'm not even there. When I talk about proof of useful work for me and where I'm trying to guide the conversation for my community, at least, is like, so there are costs, right? Yeah. And it's fine. We're standing on the shoulders of giants, and so is the Ethereum project, right? The Ethereum virtual machine, and everyone's trying to stand on the shoulders of the person behind them. 100%. So yeah, I get it. Like, it costs, right? It costs something. What I'm getting at with this whole conversation is like, cool. Can we start whatever that layer is in between everybody? Can we start handing something back down that eases the burden somehow and makes it all feel like? Can we get a 2-for-1? I don't know. Maybe it's pie in the sky, but I'm hoping that we can do something. Cool.
I would really like to see some of those things come into play, but I completely agree with you. Like, there's many years of just mining for the sake of mining until we get to that actual need of that type of stuff.
Yeah. Sorry, SETI. Sorry, folding proteins. You guys gotta wait.
Such good projects. Yeah.
So cool. So proof of work. I've been talking about it. If you'd be interested in joining a broader conversation, we are forming sort of a loose consortium of project teams that are coming back to the table to have open discussions about proof of work alternatives and about possible paths that can be taken forward to create proofs of useful work. So I don't know if you're interested. Let me know offline. No hard pitch right now, because I know I know you're exhausted. Anybody who's just tuning in or just who's gone this far in the interview, Eric, he absolutely took a field tackle and just got up and was like, whatever, I'll play. He's had a full day. It's 9 p.m. over where you're at right now?
Yep, 9:44.
But who's counting? All right.
Yeah. Me.
Well, I definitely appreciate making some time for the community here. So let me ask a couple more quick questions. Kind of a lightning round here, right? A bonus round.
Quick.
Yeah. So staking and other consensus models. I mean, clearly you guys are already doing hybrid consensus. If there were something like if staking were somehow magic, Casper, right, or whatever, and staking were magically proven to be the way, what would it take for your project to be convinced that there is some other form of consensus that's makes sense? And then how quickly or easily would you think you would adapt?
All right. Let me just make so Akroma masternodes are not hybrid. Akroma masternodes are running full nodes. So we're doing transaction validation, but there is no proof of stake yet. So just to be clear there, because you did mention that we were doing a consensus.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, every Dash clone and fork of many other projects have that built in. that is not the route that we're taking. So the Akroma masternodes actually run off of, they dump Akroma into an address. We've got background servers ran by the Akroma Foundation that check all that the nodes are online, and then they pay out Akroma to them. So we can do all kinds of things with the master nodes because they're not just doing consensus. And so we can have them running content distribution networks. We can have them running artificial intelligence. We can have them rendering farms, right? We can do all kinds of things because we've made that small concession on centralization in the short term to get to bootstrap the network. So,
okay.
Just want to make sure that was clear because I don't want to.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the clarification. Yeah, I appreciate the clarification because, yeah, I mean, I have to go into a lot of these projects, like admitting that I have a ton of ignorance when it comes to how
there's a lot of projects.
Oh my gosh. Right. Yeah. No, it's, yeah, don't blink. So awesome. So it sounds like then if staking or some other form of consensus could be sort of demonstrated to be like green, sustainable, and not suck.
Well, that's the thing too, right? Like, so we're blockchain and Bitcoin. The goal of it, one of the big goals of it, is to democratize a lot of things, take power out of a lot of people's hands. And so we're a little concerned with a lot of these proof of stake projects that are coming up, especially, you know, on the Ethereum side of thing, that it's going to be cost prohibitive for your average person to get into being a validator or being running a shard node. So we're taking, again, standoffish approach. We're setting up the network. We're building out the ecosystem. We're going to take a wait and see attitude for Casper. You know, how it disrupts the economy, the Ethereum economy, what positive, what negative impacts it has on it, even how much it costs, you know, to run a node, what the associated trade-offs are in terms of security. We're going to take all that into account. And if we find a way that we can bring Casper over to Akroma, we absolutely will, if it makes sense for Akroma. Right? So we're not saying, we're not going to do proof of stake and we're not going to do sharding. We're saying they're you know, they're in an airplane, they're flying, you know, hundreds of miles an hour, and they're making real-time changes to the engine. So we believe that the airplane is going to keep flying, but if it doesn't, we want to have a parachute over here. We want to have, you know, a safety valve. We want to be building our own thing. And, you know, if they accidentally tank the economy because, you know, nobody wants to do proof of stake, or they jack up the gas prices so high, we're just going to be over here doing our own things. We're going to take the lessons learned. And like you said, we're going to stand on the shoulders of giants, but we want to make sure that those giants can still stand when we get on their shoulders. So yes, we would absolutely, if it makes sense. And that's one of the whole reasons that we created Akroma, is to find out if it does make sense.
Brilliant. Awesome. Okay. Last question. Most important one.
Yep.
This is dead serious. When are you going to pay me that 100,000 AKA that you promised me for this interview?
You don't have your wallet yet, so I can't.
But it's totally on my phone. I mess with you. So, disclaimer for anybody who is a huge Akroma fan, for anybody who's just tuning in, who hasn't seen any of these interviews before, just so you're aware, I do not take paid interviews and I don't extort paid interviews. Just a quick disclosure here statement, yeah. Eric. Did I furnish you the list of questions I was going to ask before we interviewed?
No.
And
no list of questions, no paid, none of that stuff. No.
Yeah, there are far too many interviews where it's hard to tell, is somebody a shill? Is somebody just trying to, like, is this a bounty? No, it's not a bounty.
No. Yeah, this is way better than most of the bounty videos that we paid a whole bunch of AKA for.
Now he tells me, geez.
Yeah, no, I got nothing ahead of time, and I probably flubbed most of the questions.
Oh, well, here's the thing, though. Keeping it real, keeping it real, though, is how we keep the community actually up to speed, right? I mean, there are far too many shills. 2017 called. It wants all the crud back.
Oh, absolutely.
We can't move forward in crypto. We can't get back up close to that $1 trillion like goal. Get it back in sight for the total market cap until we start getting rid of all the nonsense.
Yeah, and a lot of these ICO projects need to start delivering. They've had a lot of money. They're building a lot of things. They need to start delivering. So yeah,
absolutely. Eric, really appreciate your time. Love what you're doing with Akroma. Based on the short time we spent together, hey, you got a fan in me at this point. I'm a believer in the project, and it's very clear that you got a very close-knit team of true believers that are guys are putting in work. So really appreciate you spending some time to talk to my community. And if the Akroma community is just tuning in, thank you for hitting the subscribe button. Thanks for clicking the bell icon so you can be notified when other interviews come out. And this is the sort of thing that we do almost every day on this channel, just because there's a huge need. And it's, I mean, how sad is that? There's this much of a need right now. We've got so many coins, we've got so much promise ahead of us. We've got clearly so much manpower and brain power going into really good projects, and nobody's just reviewing it objectively and going coin by coin, founder by founder, project by project, and getting info straight from the horse's mouth. So thanks for being here, guys. Eric, thank you again. Love to have you back on the show if there's time, possibly with some other team members. Would you be open to that?
Absolutely would.
Awesome. Hey, appreciate it again.
Thanks, Seth.
Yeah, take care.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Seth here. I wanted to personally thank you for watching this interview all the way to the end. You're the reason that I go through the trouble of setting up these interviews, and it means a lot to me when you watch all the way to the end. I know it means a lot, of course, to the projects that I interview too, because it gives them an opportunity to talk about their strengths and really for them to tell you in their own words what their projects are all about. And I know that's why you show up. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback from the community about this interview series, and it means a lot to me. You're the reason I make these videos. So if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. Please click the bell icon so you're notified when stuff comes out. And consider joining us over on the Discord server. We have a lot of great conversations going on over there about mining, about cryptocurrency in general, about rig troubleshooting, GPUs, FPGAs, ASICs, different pools you can join, plus a wholesaling area where if you have old equipment, you can buy and sell. It's pretty darn cool. I appreciate your support. You're the reason I make these videos. I love your face. See you in the next one.